Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Thank you for joining me today on Fit Nutrition Podcast, going live in our 8 weeks group. Hello to all my 8 weeks family. Thanks for joining me here today. So today we're going to talk about, I'm just going to double check and make sure everything's live streaming properly here because y'all know I'm not that techie. So there we go. I think we got her. Okay. Perfect. All right, so great. Thanks for joining me here today. Today, we're going to talk about the head versus the gut, because a lot of times, so the title today, what if it's not in your head? What if it's in your gut, right? And so I wanted to just touch on that because there's a lot of times that we have, issues like brain fog or lack of focus and attention and clarity, maybe some forgetfulness, maybe mood swings, things like that, that we think are just a head issue. No, it's from here up. And so we take medications or we do things focusing on mindset, which is a good thing, but, we focus only from here up. And what people don't realize is that a lot of the things that happen in our head or, related to our brain and all those kinds of things actually really start in the gut. Okay. So there's trillions of bacteria, healthy bacteria in our gut. And so, and a lot of the things that the hormones and things that help our brain function properly, like serotonin and melatonin and dopamine, originate in the gut too. So about 90 to 95% of our serotonin is actually made in the gut. Okay. So, and then the serotonin is needed to make the melatonin and all the other stuff. So if the gut's not functioning properly, if it's not helping to produce that, which we need, it's, the serotonin that we need, it's not going to then produce the melatonin and other things as well too. So there's a bit of a chain reaction there. And so we know that what we put in our bodies and how we fuel our bodies affects our gut. And now you know that the health of your gut affects the health of your brain. So I just want to elaborate a little bit on that. So if you just bear with me for a second. Okay. So the brain's in charge when it comes to keeping all of your organs and systems functioning, right? So the number of times your heart beats per minute, whatever, how many breaths you take, all of those things we don't even have to think about. But even though the brain is constantly working to keep you alive, it doesn't do much for your overall health and when it comes to your immune system. So that's where your gut takes over. So we call the gut the second brain, all right? So there's more nerves. Did you know this? There's more nerves that run from your gut to your brain than from your brain to your gut. So what goes on down here, sorry, you can't see me, down here in your gut is super important to not only, functioning with your immune system and keeping you healthy, but also to helping your brain function properly too. Okay, so I've got a few things here I'm reading because there was a couple of reports that I dug up. So in a couple of years ago, back 2018, 2019, the National Ambulatory Care Reporting System published a report, and its findings showed that for that time period, 2018 to 2019, there were over 900,000 emergency room visits for, quote, disease or disorder of the digestive system. That's a lot. So that which, ended up costing $340 million in treatments just for those conditions alone. So which turned out to be more than double the mental health conditions, which came in at a distant second at 156 million. So clearly the gut feelings that many people are feeling or having aren't that great. So conditions like symptoms like acid reflux, for example, GERD, heartburn, IBS, diverticulitis, gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, poor digestion. All of those things are all signs that your gut is not functioning as it should. So anybody relate? If anybody's had any of those, drop a 1 down below. And it's not just those things that, I ate something, it's not making me feel so great. If that's something that's happening to you on a regular basis, whether it's because you're eating something that's making it do that, or you're just kind of feeling it at random times, you're not really sure why that's happening, that is not normal. And that's a sign, your body is giving you a sign. When you have symptoms, it's a sign of health somewhere else or a lack of, okay? So, let's face it, nobody really likes to talk about all the bodily functions, right? It's kind of people go, but if you're if you want to know what's going on the inside, you kind of gotta go there. So, and when you don't make changes to address the root of the problem, then the constant inflammation that's caused by all of these disruptions can lead to gut permeability, which otherwise is known as leaky gut. So leaky gut really, so the lining of your stomach is one cell thick. It's very, very, very thin. And inflammation is the root cause of all disease. So inflammation, if you are feeling things like discomfort, pain, if you see redness or swelling or itching or just dysregulation in your body in different places, though, that is all inflammatory. Those are all inflammatory things that happen. Okay. So inflammation is the root cause of all disease. Now, inflammation in small doses is good. It promotes healing. So think about it this way. You cut yourself on your hand, right? And it's bleeding. It's like, you bandage it up and it's a bit red around there. It might get a little bit warm if you've bumped it as well too. And that promotes the healing. That little bit of inflammation starts the healing process to come. Now, you leave it alone, it's doing well, it heals up. If you were to pick that scab off, now it gets red, it has to start again. If you keep picking the scab off and it doesn't get a chance to heal, pretty soon you get infection in there, right? Like it'll fester, it gets all pussy, it's kind of nasty, right? We've all seen that where something's been rubbed and rubbed and rubbed and it's just become a big infection, right? So think about that inside your body. If you have a condition that you're leaving to go long term, it's kind of the same thing as picking that scab off because you're allowing that inflammation to keep going and to fester. So then that, when it's happening in your stomach, is going to create leaky gut. So leaky gut, the cell wall of your stomach is like about one cell thick. So when you have that constant inflammation, it's like picking the scab. It's creating those tears into the wall of your gut. So when you say it's a nice flat line there, as the inflammation continues, it makes these little tiny tears or little tiny holes or little tiny really thin spots where things that are supposed to be contained in the stomach bucket are now passing through those holes into the lining, from the lining of the stomach out into the body, causes a whole host of issues. So it can cause things like autoimmune disorders and some cancers. Those are like some of the biggies. The other things that causes, and here we come back to the brain, depression, brain fog, mood swings, and then we hit into weight gain, poor sleep, which also affects your brain, colitis, Crohn's. Those are some of the things that can result when we don't take care of the stuff on the inside. So most of these things are actually resulting conditions that we can actually do something about, and even sometimes eliminating them completely using food, right? So food is our foundation. How we fuel our body is going to show up in other places. I mean, I like to say, think about your body as your vehicle that drives you through life. Like your car in the driveway drives you around town. This one drives you through life. The car in the driveway, if you have a gas-powered engine, you're not going to put diesel in it, and vice versa, right? You're going to make sure your fluids are topped up. You're going to make sure everything's filled up. You're going to make sure that you get the brakes checked and the oil changes done regularly, and all those kinds of things for maintenance. We need to do the same for our body. We need to give it what it needs to keep driving you through life, because unlike the car in the driveway, this is the only one you get. There's no trade-ups, trade-ins, lease agreements, or replacements of any kind. You can maybe get a knee replacement or a hip replacement, but those aren't ideal either. But for the long term, for the most part, you get one. And so when we think about it that way, it's it's a lot more meaningful, right? If you only could have that one car in the driveway, how would you take care of it? You never get another one. How would you take care of it? That's what we have to think about here with our bodies. So one of the best things we can do to make sure that we're alleviating the inflammation in our gut, which then is going to calm down and allow the things to properly be transmitted up to our brain, so that we're going to have optimal health and wellness in our brain as much as we can, barring any other extraneous conditions. But we're going to go at a whole single ingredient foods whenever possible, put together in a way that creates a balance in our body. So here in our 8 weeks group, we talk about PFCs every 3. So you're going to put those foods together, your proteins, your fats, your carbs together in those right portions, in those right frequencies throughout the day. Keep doing that, within that first hour of waking, every 2 to 3 hours, or pardon me, every 3 to 4 hours out throughout the day. up until about an hour and a half before you go to bed, just fueling your body regularly throughout the day in those right portions. And you're going to drastically reduce some inflammation in your body because you're going to create balance internally, which is super huge. Okay. So you're going to create that balance within your body. So then you can up the ante on that by filling your nutritional gaps. So, if we're not eating 10 to 13, possibly even 15 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, we are deficient in some vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. There was a big study done called the NRM report. I think it was 2006 or 2008. Don't quote me on the date. But anyway, they surveyed and did some analysis with 20,000 people. So it's a substantial group of people. And what they found was these people thought they were healthy, felt that they were doing really good, and they were healthy. And 100% of people who were not supplementing were deficient in something. So it wasn't the same for each person because, of course, we're all different, right? So that comes down to the variety of food you're eating. How consistent are you with your whole foods? Maybe sometimes we get lazy on some weeks and we eat out half the time and we only cook at home half the time. Maybe you're really good about that. Maybe, you've got your day organized really well that you can cook at home every day and you only go out to eat once in a while. There's going to be variables and differences with each person. But overall, the more often we can use the whole foods in a balance, right? Because when we're out of balance, that causes inflammation. So we want to still be in that balance. And then we want to fill our nutritional gaps. And when you're choosing your supplements to fill nutritional gaps, right, we want to make sure that things are bioavailable. You want to make sure that they're food-based and not synthetic, right? I mean, if you're just putting something in that your body can't recognize, it's not going to be absorbed very well, and you're not going to metabolize it as well. It's just not going to be as effective. So think about those two things. And if you're not sure, wherever you're buying them from or whoever you're buying them from, make sure that you can ask those questions, and they should be able to answer you. If they can't answer you, they should be able to provide you with some information that can answer that for you. And if they can't, then I would say, I'm going to do my own research and come back to you and possibly, check out something else. So, I mean, that's why I love some of the products that I recommended in this group. That's why I go there, because they're, the quality is there and I know that they're bioavailable. So the other things you can do is try to replace any of your packaged and processed foods. If, sure, we like to have convenience once in a while. Absolutely. We all do. So see if you can reduce that by 1 or 2 items a week. Consistently over time, that's a lot. If you did 1 or 2 items per week, that's over, that's 1 to 200 items a year that you're not eating now, right? So our bodies weren't designed to process the chemicals, the preservatives, the dyes, the toxins, whatever that are in those things. So the fewer you can have of them is better. And then there's, not to mention, there's a whole lot of gluten and sugar in a lot of those things, right? So another thing that you can help your body alleviate some of that inflammation and get rid of brain fog, help with allergies, people that have a high allergic responses are usually sensitive to dairy. So pulling out dairy, because dairy is quite inflammatory. It also causes the body to retain bloat and waste. And so you're only fueling your current discomfort if you continue to put dairy in and you're already experiencing some of these issues. If you're not experiencing these issues, but perhaps maybe you've got the dark circles under your eyes, or you're just feeling tired, maybe drawn, maybe having trouble focusing a lot or occasionally, I would still pull out that dairy and see what happens, right? We never advocate deprivation here, but I do advocate health. So if something that you're doing is not serving your body, try it, when you pull something out, see how you feel and give it a while, give it several weeks. When you add it back in, your body will let you know if that's the right food for you. Okay. And that's just, sometimes maybe it just requires a bit of healing. Other times it's just something that your body just really doesn't like. So pulling out all the dairy and then flushing with lots of water. We need to really hydrate. Okay. And when we do that, it really, like, every system in our body needs water to function. We're about 75% water. We need all of this in our bodies. And when we're a quart low, it's kind of like driving your car. You wouldn't let the oil get so low, at least not to your knowledge, right? You wouldn't let it get way down. And we know that that's damaging to the vehicle, to the engine. Well, it's very damaging to our bodies as well, too, because our brain needs all that water to function. So when we're when we're depriving that, and people say, well, I'm not depriving myself of anything. I drink some when I get thirsty. if you're already thirsty, your body's already a little bit dehydrated. Okay. So you need to be a little bit proactive and preemptive there. So I always take my water. I'm going to have a little sip now. Wherever you are, get your water out, have a drink. And keep it with you, do that. If it's there, if it's available. Same with it for those parents out there who have kids. Let your, kid go and pick the cool water bottle that they like. Maybe it has a funky straw. Maybe it has a superhero on it. I don't know. But they're more likely to use it if you let them choose something fun. It might be a little bit more expensive than you want to pay at that moment. But if you can replace that fancy water bottle with buying a juice box for them every single day, giving them a juice box once or twice a day, you are saving money. By the end of the week, you are way ahead, let me tell you. Okay, so just to wrap it up here today, those are a few of the tips, because a lot of times people, like I said, are thinking that they need a lot of medication. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have medication. There's a place for medication, absolutely. If your doctors put you on something, you make sure you consult with them before you want to adjust that or come off of that, for sure. But what I wanted people to understand is that a lot of the times we think it's only something up here and it's only coming from this far up, when really it's originating down in your gut. So what are you putting in? How are you fueling your body? How are you filling your nutritional gaps? Or are you eating balanced in a balanced way? Are you eating your PFCs every 3? Are you putting lots of, water in there and flushing through? What are you doing? And so just taking a step back and thinking, well, okay, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So, if there's a few things here that are resonating with you, I would suggest give those a try. Start putting those into your day and be consistent with them and see if you don't start to notice a result. Because, our gut can heal really, really quickly. Here's one little caveat though. Just because you start to feel better really quickly, or start to notice some positive changes really quickly, stay on that path. Okay. My group is called 8 weeks for a reason. It seems to be like a very good amount of time to allow your body to detox, to do a little reset within itself, to do a little repair. For some people, it takes a lot longer. If you've been struggling for a long time, then, doing some changes, pulling out those inflammatory foods, I highly recommend trying that. Pulling out your gluten, your soy, your dairy, alcohol, coffee, sugar substitutes. Sugar substitutes are huge, by the way. Pulling all of those things out for that good 8 weeks. And for those people that have been struggling for a long time, it may take longer than that. Okay. So it may take, if you're it might take 1 month per year of age before you can actually repair. You'll start to feel better sooner, but just know that sometimes it takes up to about 1 month per decade of age before you're going to be like repaired and noticing a lasting difference in those gut issues. Okay. And you may not be noticing actually in the gut or the brain, or you might be, a little of each. Just make a note of that. And then you're going to see yourself progressing as you go forward, and what changes you've noted, and where you want to be with that then. And then you can make those helpful decisions and you can make those choices. But right now, a lot of times people don't even know it's coming from the gut, and all they think it's the brain. So that's where I wanted to go with this today. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been super fun as always. Drop your comments below. I love to see them. Let me know where you're watching in from, and come back next week for another episode of Fit Nutrition Podcast. Have a great week, everybody.